This is Romania, a country located in Europe, and this is Chad, a country in Africa. We can see that both countries have very similar flags. So, why do two different countries have such similar flags? Going back to 1866, Romania was the first to use this flag. Until 1948, after World War II ended, Romania became a communist country under Soviet influence. They added the national emblem to the flag. At that time, Chad was still a French colony until 1960, when Chad gained independence and chose the blue, yellow, and red colors for their flag. At this point, the two countries' flags did not look alike. However, in 1989, the communist regime in Romania collapsed, and the country removed the national emblem from their flag, unintentionally making it similar to Chad's flag. Chad disagreed with this and filed a complaint with the United Nations for intervention. However, Romania refused to change their flag, claiming that the colors were part of their historical heritage.
Most people don't know that the US president isn't really elected by the people. Yes, a US citizen votes for their favorite presidential candidate, but technically, they're voting for a group of electors who pledge to vote for that candidate. These electors make up something called the Electoral College, which has 538 electors in total. A candidate needs 270 of these votes to become president. Washington, D.C. even gets 3 electors, though it's not a state. Every state gets a certain number of electors based on its population, plus 2 extra for the senators. For example, California has 54 electoral votes, 52 for population and 2 for its senators, while Vermont has only 3, 1 for population and 2 for its senators. In most states, whichever candidate gets the most votes wins all of that state's electoral votes. That's why a candidate can win the popular vote but lose the election, and a lot of the time, it all comes down to the swing states, the ones that could go either way.
Ever thought about which European country is the most populous? Let's take a look around the continent. Italy, for instance, is home to around 58.6 million people, and is a true gem of cultural heritage. Its capital, Rome, is packed with ancient history, remarkable art, and stunning architecture. Then there's France, with approximately 64.9 million people, known worldwide for its art, gourmet cuisine, and iconic landmarks. Ever dreamed of visiting Paris, the City of Light? Next up is the United Kingdom, which consists of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and has a combined population of around 68 million. Now, moving to Germany in Central Europe, with more than 83.2 million residents. It's one of the continent's economic giants. And speaking of giants, Russia takes the top spot in Europe in both size and population, with over 143.7 million people. Without a doubt, Russia holds the title as the most populous country in all of Europe. Imagine if North and South Carolina broke away from the United States and formed their own nation. Together, they'd create a substantial new country with a population of around 16 million people, similar to the size of the Netherlands. North Carolina's population of over 10.4 million, combined with South Carolina's 5.4 million, would make for a dynamic union. And as for a capital, Charlotte, North Carolina, would be a strong contender. The Carolinas' combined economy would be no small feat either. With a GDP around $950 billion, this new nation would rank among the top 20 economies worldwide. Of course, they'd face challenges like establishing a national currency in a central bank, which could spark economic instability, inflation, or even deflation in the early years. On the military front, the new country would inherit North Carolina's robust military presence. Key U.S. military bases, like Fort Bragg and Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, are located in North Carolina, providing a solid foundation for national defense.
Is it possible to sail from the UK to New Zealand in a straight line without stopping by for a cuppa on any nearby islands? You bet it is. Here's how this wild nautical road trip goes down. Start by waving goodbye to Big Ben, then set sail across the North Atlantic, just a hop, skip, and an ocean away from the equator. Once you're there, slide into the South Atlantic, giving South America a little wink as you cruise by. But wait, here's where it gets spicy. You'll brave the Drake Passage, dodging penguins and icebergs near Antarctica's doorstep. Keep going, and you'll hit the South Pacific, where you just keep cruising until finally, you pull up in New Zealand with a grin. Now, it may not look like a straight line on a map, but on a globe? Oh yeah, it's straight as an arrow, or at least as straight as your GPS says it is.
Japan has proposed a massive $170 billion tunnel project to connect Japan and South Korea. The proposal was first introduced in the 1940s by Imperial Japan to connect itself to its territories and ally, Germany. In 2008, it was reintroduced by Japanese lawmakers. The planned route would span the 230-kilometer Korea Strait, which has a depth of about 227 meters, with bridges, tunnels, and roads crossing the Iki and Tsushima Islands. This ambitious project would include both high-speed rail and a highway, potentially extending the Basido Highway and linking major cities like Shanghai, Tianjin, Beijing, Seoul, Osaka, and Tokyo. The project would mark the first physical connection between Japan and mainland Asia, allowing for fast travel between Tokyo and Seoul. However, the project's cost is enormous. Japan and South Korea use different rail gauges, and they drive on opposite sides of the road. South Korea might see limited benefits, as passengers traveling further into Asia would still face restrictions due to North Korea.
Why do Russia and Japan dislike each other? It all started with a dispute over the ownership of 4 small islands in the Pacific Ocean. However, these islands are located in the Northern Territory. According to the Japanese, these islands were occupied by the Soviet Union at the end of World War II. Japan claims that Russia illegally took over the islands. They argue that these islands are rightfully their territory, while Russia insists that this issue was settled by a treaty signed in 1956 between the two countries. Since then, the relationship between the two nations has been tense, with no signs of improvement. Japan remains determined to reclaim the islands, while Russia has no intention of giving them up.
The Caspian Sea, a massive body of water in Central Asia, is often called a sea, but in reality, it's the largest lake in the world, covering about 371,000 square kilometers, larger than Germany's 357,022 square kilometers. What's unique about the Caspian Sea is that it's completely landlocked and doesn't connect to any ocean. So, why is it still called a sea? Let's take a trip back thousands of years. The ancient Caspian people, who lived near this vast stretch of water, believed it was a boundless ocean. They named it the Caspian Sea. Even though later science proved it's just a lake, the name stuck, becoming part of its history and culture. And today, it's still referred to as the Caspian Sea, a reminder of the past.
Why the United States wanted to purchase Greenland, a land 80% covered by ice and snow, despite multiple rejections. In 2019, former President Donald Trump surprised many when he suggested buying Greenland from Denmark. While the idea seemed odd, it wasn't the first time the US showed interest in acquiring foreign land. Back in 1867, after purchasing Alaska from Russia, the US also considered adding Greenland and Iceland to its territories, but nothing materialized. Offers were renewed in 1910 and again in 1946, but Denmark rejected both attempts. In 2019, Trump made another offer, which was once again turned down. Trump's interest stemmed from Greenland's strategic location. As its ice melts, new Arctic routes are expected to open, offering military advantages. This made the land valuable for the US in countering Russian and Chinese influence in the region. Did you know there used to be a country between the United States and Canada that not many people know about? This area was originally part of the British Empire, but due to taxation imposed by the British, independence was declared in 1776. In the 1783 Treaty of Paris, the border between the US and British Canada was defined, with a portion being the northwesternmost head of the Connecticut River. However, both countries had different views on this border, leading to disputes. Frustrated with the situation, the residents declared independence, forming the Republic of Indian Stream in 1832. The US recognized this new country, but British Canada did not and continued to tax its residents. As a result, the Republic of Indian Stream requested to join the US. The New Hampshire militia invaded the area with no response from British Canada, and the Republic of Indian Stream became part of the US.
This is shaping up to be one of the United States' most alarming environmental nightmares. Hidden deep within the vast Pacific Ocean, between Hawaii and California, a mysterious and relentless enemy is quietly wreaking havoc. It's slowing down ships, suffocating marine life, and, most disturbingly, growing larger every year. This isn't some far-off threat. This is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a massive, human-made disaster now encroaching on the United States shores. It spans an astounding 2 million square kilometers, nearly 3 times the size of France. Shockingly, in 2005, it covered just 700,000 square kilometers, but in less than 2 decades, it has swelled dramatically. The real danger lies in the microplastics now infiltrating the food chain, posing potential long-term health risks to American consumers who may not realize what's at stake. Did you know these fascinating facts about India? India is the 7th largest country in the world by land area, and in 2023, it officially surpassed China as the most populated nation on the planet. The region of Jammu and Kashmir is the most militarized zone globally, highlighting the country's complex political landscape. Geographically, India enjoys a strategic position in Asia. It's surrounded by the Indian Ocean on 3 sides and protected by the towering Himalayas in the north, forming a natural barrier against China. However, the border with Pakistan remains India's most vulnerable and contested region.
What if the United States disappeared from the ocean? If this happened, it would cause major geographic changes around the globe. A gap of more than 9.8 million square miles would open up in North America, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, reshaping the map. Canada and Mexico would lose their border with the United States, leading to changes in climate and ecosystems. The absence of the United States would affect ocean currents, making weather patterns like El Niño and La Niña more unpredictable, with significant impacts on global climate. The gap could form a new ocean, opening up shipping routes and changing international trade. It could also trigger geological events like earthquakes or volcanic activity, affecting areas like the San Andreas Fault. The disappearance of the Americas would create a vast void, changing ecosystems, climates, and trade routes.
If Australia suddenly decided to embark on a wild conquest spree, it would be a chaotic but short-lived adventure. They'd start with New Zealand, their friendly Pacific rival, who wouldn't stand a chance against Australia's sudden blitz. Next, Australia would overpower Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, flexing its military might. However, their ambition would soon lead them into a bigger challenge as they clash with Malaysia and the Philippines. While Australia might initially gain the upper hand, their real mistake would be underestimating the Philippines' allies, Japan and South Korea. In a surprise twist, Japan and South Korea would launch a secret invasion of Australia, exploiting the fact that the Aussie forces were busy elsewhere. Australia, caught off guard and spread too thin, would find itself on the defensive back home. Ultimately, Australia's downfall would come from overconfidence and poor planning rather than superior enemy forces. Russia's geography is its Achilles heel, forcing it to defend some of the world's least defensible terrain. The western part of Russia sits on the North European plain, a flat, open expanse with no natural barriers like mountains or rivers to prevent invasions. This allowed historical invaders like Napoleon and Hitler to charge through with ease, contributing to Russia's historically icy relations with Western nations like Germany, France, and Poland. Despite having a vast coastline, Russia's access to the ocean is limited and challenging. The Arctic Ocean remains frozen for most of the year, hindering shipping. Russia's main outlet, the Black Sea, is guarded by Turkey, a NATO member, and the Baltic Sea port of St. Petersburg is essentially locked in by Denmark, another NATO ally controlling the Danish Strait, restricting Russia's maritime access.
Which land cradles the most sacred places of worship in the world? At the very bottom of this divine list lies Saudi Arabia, a realm without a single church. Somalia shelters just 1, North Korea guards 4, and even the icy expanse of Antarctica holds 8 humble sanctuaries. Beginning with the 5th spot, we journey to Spain, where over 23,000 churches rise toward the heavens, including a grand cathedral that has been under construction for over 140 years, touched by the hands of time itself. In 4th, we find Mexico, with whispers of up to 50,000 houses of faith scattered across its landscape. 3rd place takes us to Italy, where nearly 60,000 churches stand, each steeped in ancient reverence. 2nd place belongs to Brazil, home to over 100,000 temples of devotion, a land with the largest Catholic soul in the world. But in the 1st place, we arrive at the United States, where between 350,000 to 400,000 churches are said to open their doors to roughly 230 million souls, echoing the spirit of faith from coast to coast.
These are the safest countries in the world. First up is Costa Rica, a country so safe it doesn't even need a military for protection. On the other hand, if you think the United States is among the safest countries in the world, you're completely mistaken. Interestingly, 7 out of the 10 safest countries are located in Europe, with the exceptions being Japan, New Zealand, and Singapore. The top 3 safest countries in the world are Ireland, Denmark, and finally, Iceland. In fact, the crime rate in Iceland is so low that police officers don't even carry weapons.
Why did World War II break out? In 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed at the Palace of Versailles in France, imposing harsh conditions on Germany after World War I, causing deep dissatisfaction among its people. This created the conditions for the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, with militaristic ideologies. The territorial expansion ambitions of fascist regimes in Germany, Italy, and Japan increased global tensions. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland, sparking the war. Japan also expanded its territories in Asia, while Italy advanced into North Africa, triggering a chain of global conflicts. The League of Nations failed to stop the aggression of the fascist powers, leading to uncontrollable military escalation. These factors led to the outbreak of one of the most devastating conflicts in human history.
Recently, Israel launched an attack on Iran's Aswan airbase. Initially, Iran claimed that nothing had happened and denied any attack. However, new images now show significant damage from the strike. These visuals come directly from Iran, confirming the extent of destruction at the Aswan airbase. The main radar of the S-300 missile defense system was the target of Israel's attack. Before the attack, the radar was fully operational, but afterward, the airbase sustained heavy damage. Israel has sent a clear message to the world, demonstrating that Iran's S-300 defense system has vulnerabilities. While Iran once believed their system could protect them, Israel has shown otherwise. This serves as a powerful reminder. Even the most advanced systems may not be able to save you in the event of an attack.
This area is a nightmare for the global maritime industry. Numerous ships have had accidents in this region, and this is the Drake Passage. The Drake Passage spans approximately 800 kilometers in width, connecting Cape Horn of South America to Antarctica. It is one of the widest straits in the world. This passage is notoriously dangerous due to its harsh and unpredictable natural conditions, making it one of the most challenging sea routes in the world. The Drake Passage is where the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean converge. The currents from these two oceans meet, creating massive waves and strong turbulence. This area is also close to Antarctica, where low-pressure systems thrive, generating powerful storms and cyclonic winds. The temperature here is frigid, and icebergs often appear unexpectedly from Antarctica. With the strait spanning up to 800 kilometers, there are few shelters or small islands for emergency stops. Since the Panama Canal opened, ships no longer need to risk passing through the Drake Passage unless required for specific missions.
Which country has the most active volcanoes in the world? The United States ranks third with 39 active volcanoes, most of which are located in the Hawaiian Islands. Japan comes in second with around 122 volcanoes, but only 40 of them are active. The country with the most active volcanoes in the world is Indonesia. Most countries near the Pacific region have a high number of volcanoes because they are part of the Ring of Fire.
While most countries spend millions to flaunt their wealth, one country is spending millions to appear simpler, and there's a brilliant reason behind it. Welcome to Oman, a hidden gem in the Middle East that struck it rich with oil. But unlike its flashy neighbors, where futuristic skyscrapers dominate the skyline, Oman has chosen a different path. Not a single towering building in sight. So, where's all that money going? Oman has a unique vision. While the region races to become a modern tourist hub with dazzling cities, Oman is embracing the charm of the past. Instead of rising high, they're building low, preserving